Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of TAF Solutions, where we talk about how not to suck at local SEO, sort of like that, and also to be great at being an SMB. Sean, it is the time of year for us to be great at SMBing, and I am glad of being a wonderful SMB.
I thought the subject today was about turkeys.
No,
It's not.
no,
Okay.
no, it's not. That's another subject for another time, maybe even tomorrow, but we won't be here for that. That is for sure.
Well, in that case, I agree. Let's talk about SMBs and small businesses not being able to, being able to be found online and what they need to do.
Well, it's even better than that. I think some of the challenges people face really boiled down to some really simple factors that can easily be solved, though it doesn't mean that it doesn't take time, right? So I think to kick it off, I want to mention a quick shout out to somebody we don't even know, but I'll mention them because Skull Marketing put out a very interesting article that says why local SEO is a secret weapon for small business. And Sean, I think this is just another instance of us being validated in what we talk about. Like another uh, company similar to what some of the things that we do has mentioned that why you need to focus on your local SEO as a small business and why it's your secret weapon. And I think overall, if I may say, I'm pretty sure in the article from what I've I've barely looked over it, but pretty sure the main theme is going to be it's going to help you compete with large businesses that have way more than you do.
Right. And I think it's always important to make sure people understand that when we talk about local SEO, we're referring to your local demographic area, your service area. So imagine if you are a plumber or you're an HVAC and you're providing AC and cooling service to customers in your local area, you want them to be able to find you, right? And so that's why you want to make sure that your Google business profile, your name, your address, your physical information, and your phone number, of course, is precise, and making sure that your keywords and what people should be looking you up is precise. So let's say that we're in Fort Bend County, and I'm just going to say we're in Stafford, Texas. And you know what, Joe? We're having an issue with AC, right? And I hope you're not having issues with your AC, especially in the state of Texas. But if you are, you may type in, for example, HVAC repair. You may say AC repair, and those keywords based on your geotag, your location. You want to make sure that that local business that's offering that service, they're going to populate. They're going to be found. You're going to be found as a business owner, right? And that's essentially what we're talking about, is making sure that keywords and the targeting and the content has properly been done. And then when they find your business, making sure they can say, oh, look, this is the company, this is the phone number, this is where they're located, they're legitimate, here's the credibility, here's the added value they give, and look, they handle AC repairs. Right, Joe? That's what we're doing.
Absolutely. Well, and again, guys, it's not you want to be able to be found before they even look at your wonderful website. Which by the way, you should have one. If you don't have one, get one. But either way, they when they put in your name or even better, a service that you provide, it'd be great if your Google business profiles, because when if they're looking at Google, you want to be there on the sidebar, ready to roll. And them giving information based off what they see, based off what they're looking for, right? And then, hey, look, you'll be able to see like Sean just mentioned, all the wonderful stuff about you without having to go anywhere else.
Joe, you mentioned about the website, and I think people tend to forget why we have the website out there. The website is not only to be providing information about who you are, what you do, the credibility, but it's also to showcase your subject matter expert in the particular area
Bingo.
that you're providing service.
Yeah.
And you're probably thinking, well, why is it a big deal? Well, it may not be a big deal to you, but to the major search engines, they are going to be calculating their algorithm based on what you put in, what you type in, what's on your site. And they're the ones that's going to be determining if you're the subject matter expert.
Yeah.
Hey, you may be a certified electrician in the state of Texas, right? You've gone through everything else, but Google wants to make sure that you are credentialed. And so they want to make sure that you're a subject matter expert. And that's why you have to have good, solid content, right, Joe?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that right there is exactly why, it's so important that people pay attention to what it is that they're doing on not just their social, but everything. Because guys, let's be honest, one of the key factors when it comes to searchability online is activity. That is the key factor. Google likes it if you're big, of course. Like you got 50, 200, 2,000, 5,000 reviews, whatever. The bigger you are, obviously, the more you're going to show up on certain things. And obviously, your backlink strategy, which is something totally different that we're not going to go down that rabbit hole right now, but to give people an idea of what that is web SEO, different from local SEO. Basically, you're getting authority by having links on your website, either going to or being brought to your website. So keep that in mind. These large companies have that in spades. They have it all over the place. You don't. You just don't. You're a local small business. So what can you do? Well, you need to work on a strategy that Google loves to help you with, as long as you're willing to put in the work, and that is, of course, your activity, currentness, being and consistency. Those are the things that reward you, and that's exactly what local SEO is designed to do. That's why it's a perfect fit. There's no reason not to do it. And again, we talk about it all the time, but I want to mention this last piece in here in the article I mentioned. It says the biggest change small businesses need to watch out for is how AI-driven and voice searches shape local results. Consumers now ask their phone conversational questions like, "Where's the best brunch spot in Northeast Minneapolis right now?" Now that right there, how are how are you going to show up when the information isn't directly through Google either? It's through other means, through AI, search AI engine stuff, right? These things are important. You need to have answers that are going to let the AI digest that information and then feed it back to the people who are asking those kinds of questions.
I just want to tag a little bit about that because I know, I was going through, and I'm not trying to derail the topic that we were talking about, but it's about artificial intelligence. And I know there's memes out there where it shows like the trombone where it says AI lets me shove down people's throats. And
Right.
yes, it really is.
It is.
But here's the problem with this. And it's not that you have to drink the Kool-Aid, but you do have to drink the Kool-Aid because all of the major search engines, all the technology that's going behind that is utilizing artificial intelligence to be able to make these decisions. And our job as IT consultants, especially in the area of digital presence, we're trying to help you shift and navigate through this wild, wild digital west of artificial intelligence. Joe, I want to mention something that happened to me the other night. So I was teaching the intro level course to artificial intelligence to about 17 people, and they walked in, and these are seasoned individuals. This is leisure. It was a leisure learning course, and they all walked and they sat down, and I said, "Why are you here? Why are you here to learn about artificial intelligence?" And each one went and they said, "I'm concerned about everything was future tense, by the way, Joe. Everything was future tense. I'm
Sure.
concerned about the newer generations. I'm concerned about people losing their jobs. I'm concerned about what this is going to do to our lives." And at the end, I looked at them, I smiled and I said, all of y'all are talking in future, but this is here now. People have already lost jobs. Jobs have already shifted. Tools are already being implemented. And they kind of like looked at me like I was crazy. And so I started going through some of the latest kitchen appliances because it's during Thanksgiving. And I said, you know what? How many of y'all have a smart mixer? Sweet little lady, she looks at me, she's like, well, look, I'm going to be making cookies, but what does a smart mixer do? I said, whenever you put the dry mix into the bowl and you put the eggs and you start to mix and you use your mixer, and normally whenever you're mixing, Joe, you're looking for that consistency. I don't know about you, but I love cookies, right? You can clearly tell. And you're mixing along and it looks for the lumpiness. Imagine the mixer is detecting the actual texture of the mix. And based on the texture of the mix, it sends a change in power so that it will either slow down or increase the speed of the mixer to be able to get the consistency that you wanted. That's available today, just to let you know. And the sweet lady looked at me, she goes, I need that. I said, fair enough, done. See my point? You want a smart mixer. Anyways. But then we had other people talking about security and politics. It was an interesting conversation. But the point is AI is here today. And for those of you that are trying to move away from it or not use it, you're gonna have to adopt some of these tools and practices that we're talking about.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good lead into the importance of even just getting started on the avenue of where this kind of began a little bit. Not that it was the origin in terms of like, we're talking about artificial intelligence in business, which by the way, before was based off machine learning and all this other stuff. We called it all very different things in the past, but these are tools and things that people have been using for a long time. Bigger businesses have been using. But one thing that kind of precursed the AI, I'll say LLM, aka Chat GPT guys, those kinds of things like Llama, whatever you want to call them, those models where you guys can now search with those models was Google itself, right? And one thing that has been really important, especially recently for Google, because of their AI models now being brought in. If you've noticed, guys, in June, I think of this year, somewhere around then, they introduced Gemini to the search function at the top. So you get an overview now, an AI overview of everything. What's important to think about is what happens now that that's included? Well, zero-click searches have become more and more important than ever because of that. And one metric I thought was really interesting that they pointed out here was that nearly 60% of Google searches end without a click, a single click. 60%. That is not a small number. That is a huge number. And they don't call, by the way, I did not know this, Sean. This is phraseology, terminology I was not familiar with. They call the position of your Google My Business profile and your information showing up on the side as position 0.
Oh, wow.
Call it position 0. You are the only thing. You are the featured snippet. This is it. You are the authority. Like, so obviously if you put in your business name, that's going to make your Google Business profile is going to pop up. It's going to be, you are the authority of your business. You are position 0. Okay. But what happens if you're position 0 when you're a cookie company or something or whatever, and you can, and cookies near me, and then you pop up position 0, you are the authority. So that is interesting, and that's possible now. Right. And because of Gemini's wonderful influence on this, it's going to be even more profound. But another thing I wanted to point out here was the visual and interactive search elements, like image and video carousels. And people also ask boxes are now dominating in the results. So what does that mean? Well, guys, if you don't have images, you don't have videos, you don't have social media, you don't tie this to your website in any kind of way, you're losing out on 40 to 60% of your searches. 40 to 60% of the web traffic will never see your website, and they will never see your business unless you are doing social media and content generative activities. It is not a question of should you or is it a nice to have. It is a requirement now. Thanks, AI.
it's crazy. This is where we are today. You know, we are being conditioned, and of course, that's a different conversation for another day.
Right. Well, that's the thing. For me, it's just more and more important than ever that we're getting this information in front of people in general. I mean, we have clients, Sean, and we tell them all this all the time, and they're aware they're getting the best benefit they can from the tools that we're providing for them. So they can do all these things. They can create their generative posts with ease. You know, they can create the content. They can do it consistently. They can have the activity. All the things that we're talking about right now, guys, we've been aware of all of this for years now, and I've only witnessed it becoming more and more relevant. And that's why we love doing digital presence, because we think it gives small to medium businesses the biggest punching weight above their belt class. I mean, they are able to punch high, punch up rather than punch down or even at their weight. So it's but the problem is, from John, honestly, tell me what you think of the statement I'm about to make. I think that at some point we're getting to a point where the tools that we're enabling people to have, they're going to still be relevant, more so because everyone's going to be using variations of those tools. And if you don't have it, you're not even going to be able to punch in anybody's class. And more importantly, the people who are using the tools now that are punching up and are able to compete with larger companies, it's going to settle down to where they're just punching amongst themselves, if that makes sense. I know I'm using a lot of punching terms here, but you get my point.
I mean, we usually use a punch down tool, anyways. No, you're absolutely right, and this goes back, and it's interesting you mentioned that, but Joe, this goes back to pre-COVID. Okay, I'm going to use an example. Pre-COVID, a lot of businesses didn't have a website. So you know what, doing just fine, don't have a website, and they relied mainly of word of mouth and face-to-face interaction and online transactions. When COVID hit and the entire world shut down, or at least states shut down, um, those that had an online infrastructure, those that actually had a website, or those that had the ability to pivot online, were able to stay relevant and were able to continue making transactions. Those companies that didn't have the site, they went out, they went under, filed bankruptcy, whatever the case may be, because they could not compete with the others that had the infrastructure. And today, we're not talking about websites anymore. Now we're talking about artificial intelligence and utilizing these tools to be able to move you in a direction where you're able to stay competitive. Joe, and I think that's the point, is people need to understand that we're focused on being competitive with others. So if you're a realtor and you're not utilizing these tools, what about the realtors that are utilizing these tools? If
Right.
you're a mechanic shop, if you're not utilizing these tools, think about the mechanic shops that are utilizing these tools, the pipe fitters, the welders, construction companies, emergency clinics. They're utilizing the tools. And I think people are going to say, well, it's not, it's expensive. It's extremely expensive, and I just can't afford it. You can't afford not to do it. That's my answer.
Yeah.
You just can't afford not to do it. So I'll leave with that, Joe.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. Like, and it's, again, not only are you kind of not going to be able to afford not to do it, right now is the golden time to do it. Because if you're not, eventually, like I said, you will not get the big benefit that you have right now of being able to punch above your weight class. You're not going to have it later. You're going to need to have it just to compete. And that is why I think it's so crazy that people haven't adopted is as fast as they can. Again, it goes down to that first adopted role and everything. We know that what that looks like for a lot of things, but this is more relevant than ever. It's the .com boom all over again, and you don't, and if you're not doing it, like, you're not going to make that money. You're going to miss out. So I don't say that lightly. I never ever personally, and John, you know me, I don't make those kinds of things I don't say those kinds of things very lightly, So to me, it's really important that we understand that. Now, I wanted to point this out because I was looking through this article earlier, and I wanted to really show some of the cool things they break down here, what they look like. And a lot of people just don't know what these things look like. And this is why you've seen it when you search on Google. It's important to know what they look like. So featured snippets. These things show up all the time. If you've ever looked for like a recipe or how do I do something, you see this most of the time, right? So things like how do I make a pizza, right? It'll give you an itemized list from some article or something online or somebody's website that goes over this point by point. Now, if you're wondering how to do this kinds of stuff, you're going to have to structure your content on your website or on social media, blog posts or social media posts into a list and use specific keywords and hashtags so Google can understand what it is. Hey, what this person is asking is what you're talking about. That's all. And it takes some experimentation to get that right. Now, another one I want to mention is knowledge panels. Guys, you have images, you have different, Google's going to create this kind of things themselves, but if you want to be included in this, right, you need to have relevant information, metadata for your images, specific articles and stuff that talk about these kind of things that are related to these things, and of course the viewership that goes along with that. But this is another way of doing this. So knowledge, again, is something that we talk about all the time as a great way to generate activity easily for you guys. Because if you're subject matter experts in your field, you're the HVAC guru, you're the social media guru, you're the whatever, you're this excellent person doing this sort of work, you have something to talk about. And guess what? You can show up on a knowledge panel too if you play your cards right. Okay? So let's make sure we're doing stuff like that. And again, image and video carousels we talked about, but I really wanted to show this. This right here, the local packs and maps. This is called the map pack, guys. If you're not familiar with this, you've seen it. I know you have, right? But when we talk about local SEO, this is the number one thing that drives local business success, especially for us. We try to get you on that right there because it doesn't matter. That's at the top of the page. It doesn't matter what anybody else is spending whatever kind of money on. They can be spending tens of thousands, $100,000 on Google search ad campaigns, all kinds of other campaigns for Google. But because you played your cards right, local SEO, you showed up on that map pack, you did everything that we've been talking about this entire time, you're at the top of the page anyway. So that tens of thousands of dollars, all that stuff, you didn't spend that money, but you're still going above other people. That is why it's so important for SMBs to do the stuff we're talking about.
And what you can do is you can certainly go to Google and type in whatever your keyword is, in your location and see where you populate. You can definitely look at that yourself.
100%. And this leads, again, guys, if you're wondering where that is coming from, like how you can also show up on there, even better, we'll talk about in a second. The last part of this article I wanted to mention was the people also ask. So if you've ever wondered why you want to have FAQs on your site, you want to put FAQs on your Google My Business profile, that's it right there. That's the whole reason. Because when someone wants to ask a question, but they don't want to have to wait to get the answer, but you provide the answer right there because they did a search and now they have the answer to your question, you're going to get people who want to beat down your door to come get the answer that they were talking about. Yeah, they want that. All right. They're going to contact you. They're going to try and get in touch with you exclusively because you answered their question. You've built that trust to the point where they can't help themselves. They absolutely want you because you know what you're talking about. That is what you want to do with everything we've been talking about when it comes to local SEO and work. So I'll jump back to this real quick, though, about the review, why this is so important here and how you can also generate it easily is reviews, reviews, reviews. That's it. If you want to know the secret sauce, it's citations, customer ratings, and accuracy of your information. That's it. That's the secret sauce, guys. Now, there's ways. The hard way to go about this is to go through, dozens of websites and get your information correct across the internet. And frankly, who has time for that? We have tools for that. But the other easy way is for reviews. And if you've ever wondered why people focus on reviews so much, well, it's because it's one of the most important factors. So the benefit of reviews are obvious. They're used very often when people are looking for a business that's local. It builds trust. There you go. Trust is a currency. Positive reviews, they win new customers and drive sales passively. Passively. You don't have to do anything except keep doing the best thing that you always do, which is your work. And then, of course, the reviews, they build a reputation behind your website. Yep, of course. But I want to point out this right here. Reviews impact local SEO rankings. That right there is it, guys. Look, I know that you can have an international company that has thousands upon thousands of reviews, and they can compete in your space. But if you have a double whammy of having high reviews, I don't mean just quantity, but high reviews, as in over like a whole bunch of 5 stars, and you're also doing all the other things, the citations and all that other stuff, then you're going to rank higher than that business that's not actually local to your area. That's it. Sean, I know I've been going on a rant, so tell me, is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think look, I think we've driven the fact that local SEO is extremely important, especially today. You can't, the social media aspect. It's a combination. You have to be working on these things for it to work. Now, here's the thing: some of you may feel like you're kind of overwhelmed. Start with one piece. Anything is better than doing nothing, and I think that's what's important. Is just trying your best to be able to get out there and really start, building it out. Even if you take pictures, take a picture of yourself and say, hey, I offer this service. I'm here. Maybe, whatever the case may be, just imagine yourself, you're trying to find a service with another company. Like you're looking for a plumber, looking for whatever the case may be. Look what other people are doing. And then based on that, it'll give you some creative inspiration to do that. Or you can always use our lovely AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, and ask them a real quick question about, hey, give me some inspiration. I own X, Y, and Z company. What could I do to really attract people? You can do that. Or you can do what Joe loves, where he uses the agent and he asks the agent to go find what other companies are doing. And from there, give me a nice summary and go from there. Whatever works, right?
Absolutely. And I think what we love to do a lot here, guys, is we love to work as sorry for switching a bunch of stuff around, guys. I'm trying to find the best comfortable layout for like the horizontal version and vertical versions of our stream. But either way, what I want to point out too is like, hey, we don't we 100% use the tools that we offer, and we recognize that these things are super useful and important, but we also want to make sure that we're being as human centric as we possibly can. Yeah, we don't want to rely 100% on the tools without actually. It's like relying on a fancy screwdriver without actually understanding where you're putting the screw. You want to make sure that you understand where the screw needs to go before you drill it in. And I think that's where a lot of people get hung up on the tools, like especially like you mentioned the agent, AI agent. Yeah, I use it to try and see what other people are doing because it's very useful to get that data. Normally, a larger company, by the way, would have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to attain that data for other people who have spent a lot of time collecting that data, and then they would get a nice little portfolio and stuff like that. But now I have an AI agent that can do all that work over the course of a couple of hours, if not much shorter than that. Sometimes it's just minutes, honestly. And it gives me maybe not as it won't be as verbose as that report I would get from that high dollar agency or whatever that I would buy that from, but it's going to give me something that's actionable, and I think that's where you can really drill down if you can find those use cases for AI and that can fill that hole that maybe you needed to have filled because it's the one thing or one of the few things that's going to keep you relevant, like that you compete on a bigger level. I'm all for it. But as far as like letting an AI agent that's agentic take over for a human being, honestly, the human being understands the context better. Because the data sets in a human mind are far more than just what's in front of them and what's available on the internet. So I think, at that particular point, at least for now, human capability, maybe not, it's not as fast, but it's definitely a little more, its quality is higher and the output is slower, but it's not wiped out because of agentic AI. So that being said, I'm not going to take it off the table. That eventually that will at least attempted to be done, but I don't want to go down the dark road of AI supremacy here. But the idea is, I think that's very unlikely, just because even right now, AI is very, very, very computationally centric, like very heavy, and we just don't have the data centers to accomplish it. And I don't know if we ever will, only because I mean they burn through water like crazy. It's the power needs are astounding. Like it would require a lot more resources than we have currently available to accomplish it. So again, I think we're okay for now. But again, not to go down that dark rabbit hole, it's just we gotta that doesn't mean we can't use it as a good resource for the things that we need to use it for.
So I think you mentioned about data centers. Just to let you guys know, so those of you who are in the state of Texas, Google did commit to building out 3 more data centers, $40 million investment to help with that. It's very interesting what's going on, but it's gonna be Red Oak, Texas.
Yeah, and there's a dark side to this, by the way. I mean, obviously, the water thing I mentioned is definitely something that we need to be very aware of, guys. And there's a lot of land in Texas that's available, but we only have so much water, in the state of Texas. So it's something that we need to be aware of. I don't want to go again. I don't want to go too far down that, but just want to point that out for the future, because I know that the internet remembers things forever. I wanted to mention it because it's something I'm very aware of that I don't like about the AI. I don't like these data centers being exclusively in Texas, to be honest with you, because it's not going to add any jobs for us. Not really. And it's just going to be a giant resource hog. So I'd like it if we could spread it out a little more in the U.S., guys. Let's not keep doing Texas like that. Anyway.
You know what's important though? Is I'm thankful for having water today.
Well, yeah, but yeah, it's a crazy topic to go down.
It
But yeah,
sure is, especially with the power as well. Not only water, but also power. Power is another piece to it, and
100%.
some of the things that they're projecting to do to be able to help power these data centers. It's pretty interesting. That's another topic for another day. But I'm with you, Joe. I get you. Earlier.
Either way, I definitely wanted to move away a bit from the kind of this the digital presence and the hidden factors that we've already talked pretty ad nauseum about. I guess one of the things we did mention that I want to address too is, look, if you want to, reviews are important. NAP, name, address, phone are important. All right, obviously we talked about that, but definitely also want to point out that if you guys really want to do awesome when it comes to getting more clientele. Become known for your speed to lead ratio, man. Like, get going on actually responding to people in a timely fashion, and that's it's super important and more than ever right now. You don't have to be lightning quick, but you need to be like, you shouldn't leave people hanging for days at a time. Like you're never going to win if you're doing that,
Right.
right? So definitely, I mentioned the internet remembers forever. Yeah, if you're leaving people hanging, the internet remembers forever. So please respond to people, and believe it or not, there are things in the background working against you if you don't show the response rate that you need to show. Facebook specifically has that as a metric that people can, when they go to your business profile page, on Facebook, they can look to see before they even message you what your message back rate is, or the time it takes for you to message back. This is a real thing, and if you've probably seen it yourself, but it probably didn't register that was the reason why it's there. So it curbs people's expectations. And the last thing I want to mention on the hidden factors is brand consistency. Okay, so I know so many people. John, this is near and dear to my heart. Okay, I know so many people that just grab a logo, and that's fine. You can grab a logo. I'm not going to say no to that. But they just go, they pay $5, they grab a logo, and great, wonderful. But I want you to remember that when you grab that logo, you are now committed to the entirety of your business life to that logo. And more importantly, all the colors and the style, it's all now yours, and you have to use it. You have to. Because if you don't stay consistent with the colors and the logos and you swipe it out all the time, it's like if you drive down the road and you see a nice, wonderful place like Marble Slab, like a nice ice cream shop, and they have this wonderful sign out front with like a cup, with overflowing ice cream with a spoon, and it just looks so nice and iconic. It looks great. And you remember the sign. You don't remember the name of the company. You remember the logo, the way the image looked, and how it was so nice. And you're like, I'm going to go there one day. And then 2 months later, you're like, you know what? I want ice cream. And you go down there and you see a different logo, a different picture. Well, it's a different company now. I don't want to go there. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. Matter of fact, the first thing that comes to my mind is what happened with either company, and was there a problem with the product they were selling? Why did they rebrand? What's going on? So no, you're absolutely right.
That's if you even know if it's a rebrand, because you may just be like, hey, this isn't even the same.
They shut down, right?
Yeah, right.
No,
so who are these guys? And that isn't
right.
even looking very good.
Right.
The whole reason why you were attracted in the first place is gone. And so that is why. And I say this actually because it's not ice cream that happened. There is a place nearby here, and I hate to call it out, but it's like I won't say the real name, but it's a place where you can get daiquiris to go. Okay, so just got a drive-through window and everything, right? So I thought, okay, so this place is great. They've been there for 5 years, at least, I think, 4 to 5 years, and they just recently had a grand reopening. I only know that
because there was a grand reopening.
Yes, because down there I saw they had a sign out that said grand reopening as I'm passing by, and they completely changed the logos and everything. They've done this 3 times, right? Twice, opening, grand reopening, and so 3 times, 3 grand openings, right? And but nowhere online, because I looked it up, I was curious. Nowhere online did they mention the reopening. No website. Just here's a business. We're having a reopening, and they can't understand why they're not being found. Why they're not showing
Joe,
up.
Maybe we
They
should
don't
just
get
go.
it.
Maybe we should go knock on the door and say, "Hey, let's have a moment together.
Maybe, but then
Yeah.
again, they may be like down to their last legs. I have no idea. The point is, well, you got a grand reopening, man, and it didn't work out. That sign, actually, by the way, that grand reopening has been up there now for 2-3 weeks. And never taken it down. I don't get it.
Maybe the daiquiris are just so good that they're just sipping on it all day long and they just forgot about it.
I mean, but that right there was a case in point, just because it's like you've decided to throw everything away and start fresh. And I know that's not how they view it. We're still occupying the same building. We're still here. We've been in business for this long, but nobody knows you exist, and you're not doing anything to fix it on the digital front. And I think if people take 2 seconds to just rationalize what they do when they want to find something out, I look online, or I look on my phone, or I search for it, you realize real quick some of the things you need to do. So don't push back on it. That's all I'm going to say. Don't fight it. So, okay, enough of being the digital dead horse. I wanted to point out this current tech that's impacting us. We've talked about that throughout this whole discussion. But how do you see, Sean, AI developments, I should say? How do you see that really helping people in the future? And I mean, really like making big impacts for businesses in the future.
Well, I'll be honest with you, and I'm going to say this again. I look at artificial intelligence as just another tool. It's another tool, and at the end of the day, and I had a one-on-one today with someone, and the bottom line is it comes from the internal issue of execution. If you're not going to take the knowledge, the tools, and whatever else, and actually execute and apply it to what you're doing, it's completely useless. It really is. And I don't think it's going to matter if we go complete agentic, if you're just generating content, but it's what you do with that material at the end of the day. I mean, Joe, we can sit here and we can do this all day long, but if we don't take that material and we don't actually apply it, we don't do what we're going to say we're going to do, we're not going to execute, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. So I think the human element is here to stay. And I think the tools are going to continuously revolve and shift. But if the human element doesn't take that and apply it, I just don't. That's how I see it. I could be wrong, Joe. I could be wrong.
I don't know. I don't think you are.
I just don't see. I think those that are taking the tools and taking advantage of it are going to benefit from it. I do see that there's going to be a gap between companies that are utilizing it and those that are not utilizing it. It's the same thing with social media. When you look about 13, 14 years ago, those that jumped on the social media bandwagon those days developed a nice solid following, the 14,000, the 15,000 followers with some of our clients. And those are organic. That's not, you pay a company, $500 and some third world country, they get all their swarm of bots to follow you. We're not talking about that. We're talking about organic following.
Right.
That's
and by the way, they're cracking down on those. By the way,
yes.
That is coming. One of the things that's coming down the pipe is that they're cracking down on that stuff.
Right. But I think truly those that adopt the tool and technology and they stay with it through time, kind of like a lot of our clients that are seasoned, they have a good following and they benefit from it. So now when they do a post, it hits people that actually matter. And I think it's the same concept. These tools are going to be able to help move you in that direction, and it's really going to be able to help. But if you don't adopt them, if you don't utilize them, I think it's just it's going to be like another rusted screwdriver that you found in a box in your garage underneath cobwebs. Yes, Joe, that happened to me.
Well, I think ultimately, in the near future, instead of looking far future, I think it's all about meeting the change. Like it's about adapting to the change. That's what it is that we're seeing right now. But really, the core I think is specifically, if I had to put, it's about meeting your audience where they are. That is the people that you want to sell to, the people that you want to help with your service and or sell to your products to. You got to meet them where they are. And really, the most powerful tool we can think of right now is the zero-click results. Because again, if you're position 0, you're going to show up best. And obviously, you need to really focus on your AR organized search options. And look, get hyper local with your stuff. One thing that we haven't talked about, we've talked about nonstop about digital presence and all this wonderful stuff during this whole podcast. But one of the things we haven't really talked about is what you can do in real life. You can go participate in community events, sponsor community events, become a part of the community, do things for the community, contribute. What we're trying to do, guys, the whole point of digital presence is to build trust. That's what it's there for. That doesn't mean that it has to stop. You don't have to stop building trust when you get offline. In fact, it's very often more powerful to do it in person. So build trust online, yes, while building trust in person. And I think you're going to have the biggest winning. If you do that, you're going to beat like 85%. And I'm just making that number up, but a large amount of your clients, or not clients, your competitors. You're going to beat your competitors. It's that simple. Like, to do that, don't spend tens of thousands of dollars on AI search, or not AI search, on Google search ads. Don't do that unless you're like a large business trying to, get started in a new area because you've got 50 other locations. You know what I mean? Like, you do stuff like that because you have to get something done fast. But when you're trying to build your business in the area that you are, like, your headquarters are at, you don't need to run those kinds of ridiculously high price campaigns. And frankly, you can do a lot you can get a jump start in your local area because you're physically there and you can go to the places that matter to participate in the community that you're trying to build trust in. So just do that. Just use your time instead of your money. I don't know, Sean, any other thoughts you want to share before we finish off for the day?
Well, it's noon. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, and that daiquiri sounds good right now.
That's good. All right, guys. Well, don't hesitate, guys, to go ahead and like, subscribe. Definitely give us feedback if you are interested in more of what we like to say. Definitely go to our website. You can go to wearetaft.com. Feel free to jump in, send us a message. You can send us a message through here. We'll reach out, And on top of that, guys, if you're interested in some of the streaming that we've done, how we do it, we really like to keep it real simple. Just go ahead, go there, go to StreamYard. We use StreamYard. We love it, by the way. And it takes a lot of the guesswork out. Look, I've run things through OBS before. I know the nightmare. All right. So feel free to jump in on that. It is an affiliate link, so we will get a kickback, but I appreciate you guys anyway. And on top of that, remember, if you need help getting that stuff set up, we can also assist with that as well. So feel free, guys, reach out. And again, we'll see y'all next time. Oh, last announcement I want to mention. If you like some of the workshops that we've been doing, we're not doing one this month, as you can probably tell. I'm sorry, we're not doing one next month in December. Okay. So we will be jumping back on our workshops again after December in January. So look out for that. But I did want, if people were wondering where those things went, no, we haven't disappeared. It's the holidays. We wanted to take a break. You guys love what we're doing, and we really appreciate y'all. So again, all right, guys. Well, again, have a great rest of the holiday season. Have a happy Thanksgiving tomorrow, and we'll catch y'all later.